I support cancer research because my grandma recently just battled cancer, but she has survived.
Charity I support is Thorn.
I used to donate regularly to Mind. Well, my family did, because we've got a lot of people in our community that actually attend the Mind sessions.
The British Heart Foundation.
Cancer research.
National Society for Deaf Children.
Helping Yorkshire Pounders, because that's where we got one of our dogs from, and they're a little charity, but they do really, really good work. Our dog don't like us very much, but I'm sure the rest of the dogs are lovely that you get from that.
Many charities are suffering because of the lack of money that's been available. You know, small charities in particular are suffering very badly because of it.
There's a lot of essential resources that people need to get on with their everyday life. And currently, with how expensive things are getting, it's not possible for everyone to access what they need. So for the people who can give, they are greatly improving someone's quality of life without even realising it.
The charities are very important. I think it's important that people do give to charities.
Well, they're becoming more and more essential, it would seem to me, because there are so many holes within society that charities are filling. It's a shame that it's the case, but that is the case.
I think charities should play a larger role. You know, we all need a little bit of help, and that's all you really need in life. You really need a little bit of help, a little bit of love.
I think they play a really important role, but I think that sometimes they are doing work that the government should be doing.
One word I think about when I think of charity is just support. Nice people doing nice things.
Generosity.
I think that it's just helping people.
The one word I think about is selflessness.
Necessary.
In one word, I would say charity is kindness.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to welcome you to our annual public meeting and to see so many of you trustees and charity representatives here in person and online. I'm delighted to be here in Liverpool, a city that holds a particular significance to the Charity Commission. It was in 1970, the year the Beatles split up, that the Commission opened its first offices here in Liverpool. And today, over 50 years later, the Beatles are back at the top of the charts, and our Liverpool office is still going strong. In fact, it is the beating heart of the Commission and home to the majority of our operations. I'm delighted too that we are holding our public meeting here in the Flory, a fantastic charity which, among other things, makes this local, wonderful Victorian building work so well for the benefit of the local community. I had the opportunity yesterday to see the work here, and I'm delighted that they're able to accommodate our meeting today. So thank you, Anne and Lawrence, our hardworking CEO and COO, respectively. It's now 18 months since I began my term as chair of the Commission, during which time I've had the opportunity to visit an extraordinary range of charities, from a community garden in Birmingham to a veterans hub in Barry, from bereavement support in Stafford to museums in Bath. So it's a useful moment perhaps now to reflect on how we are delivering on the priorities I set out when I was appointed. Now, I said then that we would be an expert regulator that is fair, balanced, and independent. I'm pleased to say that these values have been embedded in everything that the Commission does, and they will be a core part of our new 5-year strategy due to be launched in January. The new strategy will recommit us to supporting charities to get it right, but taking robust action where we see wrongdoing and harm, to protect charities from abuse and maintain public trust and confidence in the sector. In doing so, we will always act in a proportionate way and be understanding of trustees who make honest, reasonable mistakes. And trustees should always feel able to come to us for advice and make use of our guidance. I've also made it a priority of the past 18 months to celebrate our volunteer trustees and their chairs, some of whom are here today, numbering in excess of 700,000, who are the linchpin of the charity system, and without whom so much good would not happen. I salute you. I also say to existing trustees, please think actively about encouraging others from diverse backgrounds and experiences to help shoulder the burden of your work. And to potential trustees, I say, please follow the superb example of our current trustees and sacrifice some of your own time to help charitable causes in this important way, joining existing boards or setting up charities of your own. As President Kennedy once said, think not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. I also made it clear last year that it was important during these difficult financial times of the pandemic and now the cost of living crisis that trustees remember at all times that they are stewards of other people's money, charged with delivering their charity purposes with them. This means that trustees are bound to act prudently in the discharge of their functions and be sure to spend carefully and only on their charity's purposes. I'm pleased to say that throughout my visit, I've seen at first hand how our trustees are observing this message of prudence and care, not least as they know that during times of financial stringency, it is more important than ever to the public to see that every penny of a charity's funds are spent on its charity's purposes. It was at our APM last year in Cardiff that we launched the newest edition of our bite-sized 5-minute guides on political activity and campaigning. That began a useful dialogue with the sector, which has continued to this day. A year on, we are now approaching a general election, which will undoubtedly shine a spotlight on charities' campaigning activities. And as I have made clear before, when charities politically campaign, they normally do so with the law on their side. So long as campaigning supports their charities' purposes, charities are free to campaign and engage in political activity. Indeed, this can be a vital way to advance their cause. In doing so, trustees must, however, ensure that campaigning is in their charity's best interests, and crucially, that they are not drawn into issues or activities that are outside their purposes. And charity leaders must remember that it is not their political opinions that matter, but the cause they represent. When charities do get involved in this area, I believe they have a responsibility to do so with respect and tolerance, and yes, consideration for others or kindness. They need to avoid inflammatory rhetoric that may undermine public trust in the sector and instead model a better kind of discourse. That does not mean they should be meek or avoid controversial subjects. But in doing so, in the cut and thrust of political debate, charities won't be immune from criticism if they take an alternative view in a contentious and contested area. They are, after all, entering charged spaces, even if doing so consistently with their charitable purposes, and they don't have a monopoly on being right. So charities must campaign with their eyes open in these areas. And, disappointing though it might be, as the pre-election temperature heats up further, so may the intemperate language from our politicians. This would never justify a charity responding in kind, as charities are in a different and more privileged space than politicians, and the law expects different and better standards from charities. So remember, in the words of Michelle Obama, they go low, we go high. One tool that I hope will help charities to navigate this area is our new social media guidance, which was published earlier this year, following consultation with the sector. The guidance makes it clear that social media can be a highly effective way for a charity to engage its beneficiaries, but that there are risks involved for which trustees should plan. I encourage all charities, and particularly those who wish to engage in campaigning activity online, to note our guidance and implement a social media policy if they don't already have one. When I became chair, I also said that I would commit to listening to the sector and, where appropriate, be prepared to stand up for charities where they have unfairly come under attack. One area where I particularly want to defend the work of the sector is in the field of international aid, where the efforts of charities have too often been criticised by those who are sceptical of their work and the impact they have. So earlier this year, I visited Romania to see at first hand the work being done by English and Welsh registered charities to support those displaced by the war in Ukraine, funded by the remarkable generosity of the British people. I saw the work of a range of charities providing vital accommodation and support to families fleeing the war. I didn't go there simply to observe them, but also to demonstrate my support for their work and to say clearly to those who might criticize the international aid sector that we should be proud of these charities. They are fantastic ambassadors for the British people, nurturing goodwill, friendship, and mutual respect. Recent awful events in the Middle East have reminded us again of the unique role of charities in rising to meet the humanitarian needs of the suffering. Charities are currently working to supply aid to support those affected by the conflict, some in extraordinarily difficult circumstances. At the same time, we have seen many charities here in the UK step up their efforts to promote cohesion and combat extremism at a time when, sadly, reports of anti-Semitic and anti-Muslim hate crimes have been increasing. I have met several Jewish and Islamic charities recently to discuss their work and will continue to do so. At a time of heightened tensions, people expect charities to lead the way in bringing people together, not stoking division. Unfortunately, however, the Commission is aware of a significant number of serious concerns regarding activities linked to some charities in relation to this conflict. These include charities representing communities across the religious divide, although they largely concern allegations of anti-Semitic or hate speech. Where concerns have been reported to or identified by us, we are assessing these to establish the facts and are in contact with a number of charities. If we find that there has been wrongdoing, we will take action to address this. And let me be clear, charities must not allow their premises or events to become forums for hate speech or unlawful extremism. The Commission will always deal robustly with those who intentionally or recklessly abuse their charities, and we will not hesitate to take action in accordance with the law to protect the reputation of the sector as a whole. Finally, I would like to mention another issue that is a priority of mine: philanthropy. Britain is an incredibly generous nation when it comes to charitable giving. One recent study put the UK third in world rankings of giving, with 71% of people regularly donating to charitable causes. But more is needed, especially at a time when many charities are struggling financially in the face of rising costs and increased pressure on their services. And it appears that more is especially needed from the top 1%, as there is some recent evidence that they do not give as much to charity as their counterparts in comparable societies, and that giving amongst the very wealthy is not keeping pace with their increased income, which, if correct, would undermine the ancient understanding that with greater rewards come greater responsibilities. For this reason, I have committed the Commission to the promotion of philanthropy. Last week, I set out in detail how we do that, including by developing a new program to promote our data on charity funding and impact to help philanthropists see how their donations are having an effect. We will also publish updated guidance on accepting or refusing donations, which will make it clear to trustees that the law generally expects charities to accept monies where they are available and not to refuse or return them without very good reason. And while we will always treat trustees' decision-making in this difficult area with respect and understanding, it is our important statutory role to explain and enforce the law. I will therefore continue to do all I can to promote philanthropy and encourage those who are best off to rise to the occasion and reflect the generosity of the wider British public. One of the reasons that people can give with confidence in this country is that we have a well-regulated charity sector. No other country on earth can offer a better tradition of good governance and regulatory oversight, 170 years old and counting. And I can say with confidence that this tradition is in safe hands with this current board and with Helen and the rest of the senior leadership team who you will be hearing from during the rest of this morning. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Helen Stephenson and I'm the Chief Executive of the Charity Commission, and I'm introducing today Mark Sims, who's one of our board members. So Mark, welcome.
Thank you, Helen.
So you have spent 25 years working in and with the charity sector. Tell us a bit about your experience and the charities you've worked with.
Well, it goes a bit longer than... Is this one? Yeah. It goes a bit longer than 25 years, Helen. It goes back to the 80s when I was a bit thinner than I am now, and I'd got lovely, beautiful, long ginger locks. I worked for the local community centre where I live, doing a bit of admin as a volunteer. And like most people who work for small charities, you go allegedly to do admin and you end up doing the pots and hoovering the minibus out and things like that. So it's pretty good grounding actually for my longer career in the sector after I worked in the NHS for a while as a nurse. And then I worked for Rethink Mental Illness, which was then called the National Schizophrenia Fellowship. And I've been in this organisation, P3, for about 20 years, about 8 years as a chief exec. And we work with people who are having difficult times, largely around issues affecting homelessness and stuff about keeping hold of where you live.
Great. So what do you think, apart from the using of computers rather than typewriters, what are the big changes you've seen in the charity sector during that period?
I think certainly over the last 25 years, the challenges around safeguarding have definitely come to the fore, and sadly that's come out of a number of widely reported incidents where the organisations have let down vulnerable people. And I think strengthening and safeguarding for people and communities that we work has been really welcomed in the sector, and those organisations who do it well have been very gracious in how they share that with other people. The support we give to trustees, rather than just turning up for a meeting and kind of having a wide-ranging debate depending on what you're doing and what you feel about stuff, a focus on the purpose of the organisation and the usefulness of the debate focused on what we're there to deliver has definitely improved, I think.
Great. And you joined the Commission board in March this year. What made you want to come onto the board?
Well, like most people, probably a lot of people in this room and lots of people watching, the Commission were a relatively passive partner in my role as a chief exec. We did what we were told, we read the guidance, we sent the forms in we were required to do. And then, sadly, in June 2017, the organisation I lead was involved in supporting people who'd fled the tower at Grenfell, and which was, an incredibly difficult time for the bereaved and survivors. And thanks to the generosity of the British public, lots of money was donated, and our organisation was involved in the distribution of that later on. And rightly, the Commission took a big interest in that. And we were called to the Commission, which was slightly daunting, sort of come and see us, we want to talk to you about what you're up to, which is always trepidatious. And the Commission set out their expectations very clearly, but not only their expectations, they gave us an idea about how they'd support us to do it well and to build confidence in the British public that the money they'd so generously donated was going to the right people for whom they'd intended. So that was the start of that. And then 5 years later, I saw this advertised, literally, on the website, and found out a bit more and thought I might have something to add. So I applied, and very grateful that you chose me for the role.
Oh, good. So is it awkward at all for you being both on the Commission but also in a charity? And also, what do your trustees think?
So it is a bit poacher turned gamekeeper, and that can be a bit challenging. And the issue, which I know lots of trustees and people working in charities deal with, around conflict of interest does arise. And so both at the Commission and back in my day job, we talk about it. We talk about what those things are and how we'll deal with them as they come up, and when I need to be in the room and when I need to be out of the room. But like most people and organisations, we just work through those issues. There's no kind of script that you have to follow. So, yeah, still learning, I think, is how I describe that.
So what do you see are the main challenges that are facing the sector at the moment, and how do you think the Commission might help?
Well, the challenges facing the sector, I think if everyone's got their sandwiches, we could be here all day talking about that. They are definitely wide-ranging. The cost of living crisis, the issue around conflict around the world, closer to home, the debate about how charities engage with the big conversations that we need to have in this country about how we live, work and support people from home and abroad. Those things which bring about a febrile environment. And also the stuff that impacts on our work directly around how we pay people, how we keep services going, how we engage with philanthropies for both organisations big and small, and how we work together to deliver better for communities. I think there are lots of the issues that we're facing, and as I say, the list could go on. The answer, though, lies in the organisations. There's loads of expertise, there's loads of passion, loads of commitment in the people and communities out there who are working every day to solve those problems. And I think the role of the Commission is to support them to do that brilliantly and to give them guidance so that we stay within the law, so that organisations know what the law is, because sometimes we don't. And also to provide not just kind of criticism, but also guidance, information, training and expertise. And so I really welcomed when I joined that the notion of an expert commission providing brilliant guidance and support would be something I think the sector would really appreciate. We may not always agree with it, and the fact that we're talking about that and debating it is a sign of a really healthy society.
Great. And is there anything that surprised you since you've come to the Commission?
Well, I think being a dyed-in-the-wool charity chap, I think we sometimes think we've got a monopoly on how passionate we feel about charities and the work that we do. One of the things that was very heartening when I came to the Commission is I found 400 civil servants who are just as passionate as we are about the work of the sector. So that's really encouraging, and some of them more so than me even. And the other thing that I've found in bucket loads is that there's loads of expertise in the Commission, loads of people who are very wise and very knowledgeable about how we can do things better and how we can communicate that better. So they were some of the things that surprised me, as well as meeting the other people who work as commissioners, was very refreshing from all walks of life, bringing lots of different viewpoints, and the very healthy debate we have at the Commission is very useful.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Mark. That's
Thanks,
brilliant.
Helen.
Thank you.
So, 2022-23 has been another exceptional year for the Charity Commission and the sector within England and Wales.
In 2022-2023, we had nearly 169,000 charities on our register. And working with those charities are over 920,000 trustees.
Those charities make use of 19 million volunteers and employ over 900,000 staff. Now, in terms of scale, that is about 3% of the UK workforce. The charity sector generates an income of £88 billion and a charitable spend of £85 billion.
Last year, we concluded 5,726 regulatory action cases. Among the powers we use most often are those that help us to establish whether wrongdoing has taken place.
We opened 72 new inquiries this year, and that's up from 49 last year. A significant factor in the increase in the number of inquiries was double defaulting. That's where a charity has failed to file their accounting information for 2 or more years in the last 5 years. This is in addition to an increase in the number of inquiries opened into charities linked to individuals sanctioned by the Russian sanctions regulations. We concluded 68 statutory inquiries, our most serious form of regulatory engagement this year. This compares to 45 in 2021-22, and the difference is largely due to an emphasis on closing our longest-running investigations.
Last year, we assessed 2,969 new serious incident reports.
We've continued our relationship with the whistleblowing charity Protect, that provides an advice line service to give confidence to whistleblowers to come forward with them confidentially with their concerns. In the last year, we've received 327 whistleblowing disclosures compared to 281 in the year before. Whistleblowing disclosures are a really important way of finding concerns in charities directly from people who are involved in that charity. In the past 12 months, we've revitalised 289 charities in England and Wales, bringing back into the sector £29.6 million.
This year, we have increased the number of times we've used our powers to promote compliance with charitable law to 2,401 times, from around 2,034 times last year. Last year, we used our power to issue a charity with an official warning on 11 occasions, and our power to disqualify a trustee 11 times.
We've answered 95% of calls. 79% of those we've answered within 2 minutes. We've also helped 91% of charities file their latest annual return.
During 2022 to 23, we received 8,583 applications to register a new charity. 48% of those applications were successfully registered. Our online charity register on gov.uk was visited more than 49 million times. 30% of those were new visitors.
The results of our annual research survey with members of the public confirm that charities are seen as amongst the most trusted institutions in society.
Our research programme also found that trustees who use the Commission for support have a better understanding of their responsibilities.
In February, we launched the next phase of our ongoing trustee campaign. As with previous years, the campaign includes a suite of animated videos designed to be short and engaging and to boost use and awareness of our 5-minute guides. The campaign has proved extremely effective, reaching over 2.5 million people and driving 112,000 clicks to our guidance.
In December, we published dedicated guidance on the cost of living crisis on gov.uk. That provides practical examples for charities of how they can comply with their duties when making decisions, making sure they're legally sound and in the best interests of their charity. In March, we also improved our guidance on financial governance, making reference to new developments such as the technology Google Pay. This includes a straightforward checklist for trustees to help them understand how to make sure their policies and procedures reflect best practice.
The Commission has helped implement the Charities Act 2022. The first set of provisions came into effect in October, and we updated our guidance to help trustees understand the new flexibilities and powers that are available to them. The success of the Act depends on trustees understanding and using the new powers that are available to them correctly. Our guidance helps them do that.
Good morning. Look, I'm really delighted to be here at the Florey in the heart of Liverpool. As Orlando said, it's a city that's very much at the heart of the Commission. And this is where most of our staff are based, with many travelling in from Merseyside, the Wirral, North Wales and the North West to our Bootle office. And it's where we do most or much of our core regulatory work, registering charities, supporting trustees through the contact centre, undertaking our compliance casework and our digital communications and campaigns. So in a way, coming to Merseyside is like coming home. Our team here work hard to make the Bootle office very homely. So we have coffee mornings, charity fundraisers, retirement picnics, all involve, I should say, plenty of cake. And it makes the place have a true sense of community, although it is slightly divided between Everton and Liverpool fans, I should say. So hosting today's meeting feels very appropriate, as this is the my seventh and last annual public meeting as the Commission's Chief Executive. It's certainly been an eventful almost 7 years, not just for the Commission as an institution, but for the sector we regulate and the society we serve. But more on that later. As Orlando said, the Commission has been in existence for nearly 170 years, and our core mission has remained unchanged throughout that century and a half, protecting and promoting the special bond of trust between the public and charities, enabling and encouraging people to work together to improve lives and strengthen society. But how we do that, and therefore what we do, has evolved over time, reflecting sometimes subtly, sometimes directly, the hopes, needs, values and expectations of the public. This is, of course, because the sector itself serves as a mirror on society, and what matters to individuals, communities of place and interest, and what matters to us collectively in society is so often expressed in and through charity. I've seen that truth confirmed many times during my time at the Commission. When I was started, I was determined to nurture the right relationship with the trustees that we regulate. We are neither a loyal friend championing individual charities or trustees, but nor are we a fearsome foe. And engaging with us should not feel like riding into battle. We are not influenced by, but informed by the sector we regulate, with our ambition to be an expert, trusted regulator that enables charity to thrive. To be an effective regulator that the sector deserves and indeed requires, I've always been clear that the Commission must place an equal emphasis on being a source of support to trustees, but also a tough enforcer, prepared to tackle wrongdoing and harm swiftly and robustly. In large part, it is through investing in our people and our systems that we've been able to do so. It is our staff who work tirelessly to articulate the legal framework we are guardians of, to get charities back on track. Where they need to deliver sanctions to limit harm, they do so with professionalism and integrity, and true commitment to the mission of many in the sector to help others. We've also invested hugely in the support that we offer to charities, not least in the fundamental review of the tools and support we provide to trustees. For example, in recent years, we've transformed the guidance we produce. Today, I am confident that it far better meets the needs of busy trustees. It is clear, as simple as the law allows, and structured in a way that is accessible and easy to understand. You will no doubt have heard me say before how proud I am of the 5-minute guides, and I will say that again. These bite-sized guides, which provide the basic syllabus of issues trustees need to know about, have made it so much easier for them to develop a foundation of knowledge and understanding from which to build as and when they need to. We've also focused on making our in-depth guidance shorter and I hope clearer. Over the summer, we published our updated version of CC 14, which is about charities and investments. We thoroughly redesigned this guidance, not only to make sure it was easier to understand, but also to give trustees the confidence to make investment decisions that are right for their charity. We made sure the language we use is clearer and the structure easier to follow. I hope that you've used CC 14 and that you've felt the benefits of this approach and found the information that you need more quickly. In his opening remarks, Orlando referred to our new social media guidance published in September. This was commissioned to meet demand from the sector who sought advice on this ever-evolving communications tool. It was widely consulted on and crafted from the outset with trustees' needs in mind. And I'm delighted that the final product has been well received across the sector, and also that our motivation in preparing it has been understood and welcomed. For many, I know that being a trustee comes on top of a very busy day job and a number of other commitments. So it's important that the Commission can meet you halfway, whether that means through easier to digest information or more accessible services. Earlier this year, we launched the My Charity Commission account. This new system represents a long-term investment on our part as a regulator to change the way we interact with trustees as individuals rather than with charities as organisations. Over the summer, we've worked tirelessly to launch the system. We've invited trustees to sign up and made our new annual return available through the portal. Now, I know that some charities are experiencing difficulties with the system, and that with increased demands for our contact centre, it's been challenging to get through to us. Please know that we are working hard to ensure that we resolve these issues, and rest assured that no charity will be penalised if they can't find their annual return or accounts because they experience difficulty with the system. I'm pleased that the majority of charities are now set up and have actually been able to file on time. When I arrived at the Commission, our contact centre was open just a few hours a day. making it nearly impossible for people to contact us. Since then, I've overseen significant investment in our wonderful team here in Liverpool, improving the tools they have to do their job, bolstering their numbers, and extending the opening hours so that they are available every working day. For many trustees, the contact centre is both the main and the only human interface they will have with the Commission, so it's important they're there when you need it. But the contact centre is just one of the ways the public interact with our work. Each year we see people come forward as whistleblowers. This can take real courage, and the concerns raised can have significant impact on the operations of a charity and on the trust of the sector at large. So another area that we've made it easier for people to engage with us is whistleblowing. We've improved the journey for charity workers and volunteers wishing to draw serious concerns about their charity to our attention. And we know that to be a truly trusted regulator, we need to serve these people with respect and to give them the support that they deserve. The service we offer does just this. Our emphasis on service and support reflects the growing expectations we all have, whether as customers, citizens, or beneficiaries of charities. As citizens, we expect and demand a good service whether that's when we apply for a passport or whether it's raising a query about a purchase. Similarly, those accessing charity services, a food bank, art gallery, mental health charity, or cancer support group, expect a respectful and, where possible, personal service. It is right that we have had an intense focus on customer service in recent years, but it's not just the Commission that charities have the right to expect a decent service from. And I'd like to make it clear that I think there is room for improvement among some of the organisations that we are most familiar with. I have become increasingly concerned over recent years about the service that many charities are experiencing when interacting with high street banks. Too often, charities experience accounts being closed or suspended suddenly for long periods of time, with poor customer service and administrative delays. Only last week, I was at an event celebrating Trustees Week. A trustee came up to me to tell me about how their charities bank, one of the main high street banks, had closed their account with just 2 weeks' notice and no explanation. This isn't just a charity with a £100,000 income, but an employer with staff to pay, and it's simply not good enough. All too frequently, charities find that online banking is not designed to match the way they operate, and the banks are rolling back bespoke banking services that charities need in order to deliver. Therefore, today, I, alongside my counterparts in the Office for Scottish Charity Regulation and the Charity Commission for Northern Ireland, have published an open letter to the CEOs of high street banks. The letter makes it clear that we consider the service charities experience from banks is unacceptable. Charities are on the front line of the current cost of living crisis, providing vital support to people across the country at this challenging time. Many are themselves facing financial difficulties. The current stresses for charity trustees are heightened by the avoidable frustrations at the availability of bank accounts and substandard service from the banks. Now, we've worked behind the scenes for years to support the sector in raising their concerns with banks, and while there has been some good initiatives underway to improve the situation, including with and through UK Finance, not enough has changed. The scale of the response from banks needs to step up now and at pace. I do hope that this letter today ensures that in future, charities receive the services they need and deserve from their banking providers. While improvements to banking services for charities has been painfully slow, other aspects of charities' experiences are developing at enormous speed. It's hard not to acknowledge the leaps and bounds that technology has made in the comparatively short time that I've been at the Commission. I see peers across government and charity leaders themselves all grappling with the challenges and opportunities that digital and data can provide in delivering better public services, more agile solutions to emerging threats, and to grow confidence in our work. We have made great strides to becoming a digital by default regulator, upgrading and streamlining our online services. And this investment in our systems paid off most acutely when we were faced with the first COVID-19 lockdown. Within days, we enabled all of our staff to work completely from home. Our contact centre was up and running remotely, answering queries from trustees. Our outreach and regulatory work continued, allowing us to consistently fulfil our duty of upholding trust and confidence. Our support for charities as they navigated this unexpected global event remained steadfast. We did not miss a beat. And I've never been prouder than I was of my staff and their resilience as I was during that period. But we needed technology to enable us to make that shift. In 2020, we launched an improved online public register of charities focused on increasing the transparency of the sector and providing information about individual charities for donors and the public to consider when determining who to support. Since then, the register has gone from strength to strength, with its pages being viewed nearly 49 million times last year alone. It has provided a strong foundation for us to use our data to prove accountability for the charity sector. Data, how we collect it, use it, and share it has been a critical feature of our activity in recent years and will be in those that lie ahead. Our work in this area has allowed us, and I'm sure will continue to allow us, to be ever more proactive and as a regulator, intervening at an earlier stage and hopefully avoiding harm and disruption sooner. Today, we are publishing a first of a new series of quarterly releases of our data on our regulatory and compliance casework. This stride towards greater transparency will, I hope, demonstrate how extensive our regulatory work is and provide a flavour of its variety and impact. The data we're releasing isn't brand new. They are figures we report on yearly in our annual report. But I hope in releasing data quarterly, we will offer a more immediate opportunity for those who are interested in our work to see what we're doing and to identify any themes or trends. In the summer, we launched a new annual return. This followed a fundamental review of the information we collect annually from charities. The new annual return and planned work to reclassify charities on our register is essential so that we can continue to give public access to information that helps them make informed choices about charities, and to provide policymakers and researchers with better visibility of the scale and the scope of our sector. So too will be research we intend to undertake to better understand trustees themselves. This research will enable the sector to work out what the trustees or what the barriers to trusteeship might be, and how we might open more doors for more people to become trustees. We're now actively looking with partners to develop further research in this area, so in due course to supply data to help this process of promoting wider trusteeship. And this really matters, doesn't it, for the future of the sector? The last 6 years have been part of this organisation's long journey with data and digital. And it has been extremely satisfying to see the Commission cement its unique position as a source of key information about charities in England and Wales, harnessing innovations in technology, data and insight. I have no doubt that the organisation and the sector are primed to make the most of these innovations in the years to come. As I said at the beginning, this is the last time that I will be speaking at the Charity Commission annual public meeting, so I hope that you will indulge me if I take a moment to reflect on my own experience of leading the Commission through what has been an ever-changing and uncertain period. If I think back to when I first walked through the Commission's doors in July 2017, I could not have predicted the journey that the organisation and the sector would have been about to embark on. The sector was still reeling from the aftershocks of the safeguarding and other scandals, which had driven public trust to an all-time low. The Commission was seeking to deliver meaningful change in the wake of those scandals, all the while grappling with increasing demand and rising caseloads. But if I thought that after such an intense period, we would be going into a period of stability, well, I was wrong. COVID hit. I can remember thinking as we shut down the Commission's offices and sent everyone home to work that by the summer of 2020 we would be back to normal life and normal life would have resumed. Of course it didn't. And we, like all organisations, found ourselves profoundly affected and altered by the global health crisis. As a nation, we'd barely righted ourselves after the huge disruption and pain caused by the pandemic, when we were hit by a generational cost of living crisis, impacting many charities in several fronts at once, with demand on services increasing, costs rising, and downward pressures on income. Beyond our shores, conflict, national disasters, and political instability abound, not to mention the effects of climate change and the impact of rapid technological change. It's been quite the almost 7 years. I do hope that the intense financial pressures that charities are facing and on those that they seek to serve will lessen in the months and years to come. And of course, we all wish for an easing of the horrifying conflict around the world. But if the past teaches us anything, I do not think that charities or the Commission should expect a future of steady as you go. Indeed, I've heard a lot recently about the world entering a new era of permacrisis and that leaders should prepare for that. That isn't to imply that calamity will follow calamity. More that, and to draw on the original meaning of the term crisis, leaders of charities of all shapes and sizes will find themselves repeatedly at crossroads and turning points where significant change is not only possible, but inevitable. And I don't think this is new either. John F. Kennedy, who so often put ideas into simple language, said, "Change, it is the law of life." And this is understood implicitly by many charities. Yesterday, as part of Welsh Charities Week, I visited a wonderful charity called Advancing Brighter Futures. ABF is based in Wrexham, and it works across North Wales supporting people experiencing mental health challenges. The charity is celebrating its 30th anniversary. During that time, ABF has remained true to its founding mission to offer services that are driven by voice and agency of the people that it supports. And yet what it does has adapted enormously in response to circumstances, challenges, and opportunities. During the pandemic, the charity acted quickly to pivot its services, offering online support and telephone check-ins. I was really impressed with what I saw at ABF, a real lived sense of openness and positivity towards change, but with a sharp focus on the charity's core purpose. Overall, then, I'd argue that charities, like the Commission as regulator, should not see big change as an intrusion or disruption to well-laid plans. We should accept change as inevitable and lead anticipating rather than simply reacting to change. So I'd like to just draw a few conclusions or patterns that I've identified over the years. First, being future-focused does not mean never looking back. In fact, reflecting on what has come before can be vital to ensure that we lead purposefully for the future. I've been really aware during my time at the Commission that the organisation has been thriving for over 170 years, and that as Chief Executive, I am but a custodian of that purpose that has endured. That longer view has helped me resist dual temptations to either jump on every bandwagon that comes along, or to simply keep doing what we've always done in the interests of continuity and safety, never taking a risk. It is precisely to deliver on its enduring purpose effectively that the Commission has had to continually evolve. Second, I've learnt that the unknown is scary and that the instinct of many institutions is to look the other way and hunker down when trends or events of unknowable impact loom on the horizon. One of the jobs of a leader is to help encourage the opposite and to ensure organisations tackle difficult issues. In that spirit, the Commission has grasped some thorny regulatory issues over recent years. Third, the importance of building flexibility into your strategy and work plans. Set out the why, not the what or the how, and expect disruption and changes in course. When the Commission developed its current strategy in 2018, we kept to high-level principles, setting out not what we do, but why we matter. This was particularly pertinent for us when the pandemic hit. As a leader, the strategy became a lodestar, allowing me to make sure we kept our sense of direction, but also enabled us to pivot our activities, providing support and guidance to trustees, engaging with government to ensure that the measures they introduced worked for charities as well, listening and engaging with sector leaders on the challenges they faced and the needs they had from us as the regulator. These principles of flexibility and adaptability are very much in our mind as we develop our new strategy, which we will launch early next year. And finally, the clearest and most hopeful conclusion I've drawn from my experience in the Commission over recent years is just how resilient and indeed ingenious the sector is. Many predicted the pandemic would have a cataclysmic impact on the shape and size of the sector. Instead, what we saw by and large was innovation and flexibility. Charities adapting the way they delivered their services in order to deliver their fundamental purpose. Similarly, while the cost of living crisis is unquestionably putting many charities under tremendous strain, there is no shortage of organisations applying to register, including charities set up to address the impact of the financial squeeze. There are also bigger generational shifts happening in our society at the moment, with attitudes to many cultural and societal issues changing with pace. And while I can't predict what the big themes for the coming years for the Commission or the sector will be, I'm convinced that the charitable spirit that has seen charities at the centre of society for the 170 years the Commission has been in business will continue to flourish, expressing itself in new ways as needs and expectations change. But whatever the challenges, as a sector and as its regulator, we need to keep embracing innovation and having an open mind to change. As someone once said, standing still is the fastest way of moving backwards in a rapidly changing world. I believe that as a regulator, we need to be rooted in our past and rightly proud of our history, but ready and willing to embrace change and innovation in our future. I'm exceptionally proud of my time at the Commission, and when I leave next year, I will look back with great satisfaction at the challenges we've overcome, the improvements we have delivered, and the export organisation the Commission is becoming. I have been honoured to work with such a strong, skilled leadership team and to have led a dedicated, enthusiastic staff, all committed to overseeing the work of our dynamic sector and achieving excellence in all they do. The challenge for the next leader of the Commission will be to ensure that the regulator continues to stay true to its fundamental purpose, while keeping pace with the changes we see in the sector we regulate and the society that we serve. But I say this with certainty, that the Commission and its board and staff are well placed to take the next step on its long and proud history and will deliver to ensure charity can continue to thrive. Thank you.